Marcia, no ECB has ever been neutral. It wasn't designed to be neutral. It was designed to give the governing party an advantage in the elections. The ECB should
The EBC,
never be
in
appointed.
what way? In what way?
Okay, the ECB, Electoral Boundaries Commission, was the creation of the Baptist Party government, and it was intended, or supposedly intended, to make elections free and fair. They have never done so. First off, if they really wanted to be fair, the politicians should not be the persons appointing the people at the ECB and the electoral office, because that is a sham. We've had elections where the chief electoral officer had been temporary for so long. And if you're a temporary officer and you don't please the government, out goes you. So it doesn't make sense having these structures in place and staffing them with politicians. I have actually worked with a person in an election campaign, and then that person became the chairman of the Electoral Boundaries Commission. It's ridiculous. Now watch. The government appoints 3 people, and the opposition 2. The government appoints the chairman, and the deputy chair comes from the opposition. But when there is, and like now, we should have meetings. But if the chair isn't there, the deputy chair is supposed to take the seat. They will have a meeting. They refuse to have meetings.
Where the deputy chairman had not been allowed to chair meetings. And therefore that had been frustrating and postponing the whole operation, the whole quality of work done by the Electoral Boundaries Commission as reflected in some of the decision making. I don't know if that's been your experience with Caswell.
Well, that is my information.
Right.
Well, I'm not on the board, but I'm telling you, it's a situation where nothing then gets done because the Electoral Boundaries Commission is supposed to put out election report. Have you seen the election report for the last election yet?
I asked the same question earlier.
But I have not seen it, and I collect reports going way back from 1956. I have all the election reports except 1971. I have all from 1956. I'm a collector of those things, and I can't get one yet. You know why? Then do it. So,
which is unforgivable.
Also,
that is breaking the law because the representation of the people's demands and require that.
But also, I heard when I came in, I heard you talking about new voters. It is an automatic process for those people because you register your child when the child is
at birth,
born or whatever, and the electoral they give you a little yellow card and save your ID, and then eventually when you get 16, you can get your ID card. So you go and get your ID card, and then you're registered to vote. But you can't vote yet. You got to wait till 18. So when you become 18, you go on automatically. But the list, according to the law, must be published by the 31st of January every year.
Right.
Routinely. That's the requirement of the law.
Routinely.
The Electoral and Boundaries Commission must publish the list. But
you ask for it and nothing happens.
But you have to provide the list. You can't have an election without a list.
Prime Minister, but
not the Prime Minister.
Going straight, right.
Just like the Auditor General.
I am not with you on that one, Glenn. I'll tell you why. Parliament still has the Prime Minister and the Speaker and whatever reports, and they might not bring them on time. That is a committee that commission should be appointed by the President and her, whatever her or him, whatever the case may be, their deliberate discretion and using her judgment about the people she knows in the country, like how she appoint independent senators, then that person should be independent. Because as I told you, I have been in a situation where I have worked on an election campaign with a person who then became the head of the commission. He ain't going to stop being a B because he's on the commission, or stop going to be a dem because he's on the commission now. And people say, I'm I'm not saying they don't have any integrity, but what you want is to have it look like there's integrity.
Yeah.
No, so when there's the semblance of bias, that is enough to quash the whole thing. You want it to look right. You know, you don't want a situation where it looks like it is biased. Then if it looks like it is biased, it's biased. Because
by public perception,
people see out there.
Right. My thing is that I am making this on the assumption that you put quality people up, competent people in the position. If that happens, then you improve the chances of a credible job being done. I think you must have a basis of competent and honest people who can do the job.
You know that don't really happen. You put people who support your party, and then the government puts 3 people in place. There are 2 from the opposition, there are 5 people on the thing. The opposition will always be voted, even if it is a good thing.
But I am told in the past there have been one of the things that when Marcia, you talk about the length of time person being appointed to the commission is 5 years. They used to overlap elections.
Yes.
So that is that was deliberately done so that the boards and the commission not changed with every administration. So you carry on a tradition, a practice outside of the narrow limits of party by election results. So that is what I want to bet. And to me, for what I'm told, that obtained religiously for a long time. There was respect for the system, the tradition, the convention until 2018. That's the point. Until things went awry or have been going right.
Things have been awry from the time they came up with this formula. It will never work. The only time it works is if let's say you appoint a commission this month, and then your term of office ran out somehow, then and lose the election. Then you got people now who are supporting the opposition, the former opposition. They have 3 people, and then the government got 2. So you will have a situation where the people who are supporting the opposition are in the majority. But what happens? They don't got the elections around them time. You wait till the people they run up, then you appoint somebody, then you get elections.
Subject to the whims and fancies of a prime minister and a cabinet, you still on the ground will have challenges. So I think there's a marriage of the 2 things that is absolutely necessary.
The Electoral and Boundaries Commission only employ the registering officers. Mm-hmm. All the others are civil servants, and you know what happens in civil service? The politicians get their hand on the people and they decide who they want. And if you have some person that you don't know what their politics, you make them temporary. We've had elections where temporary officers were responsible for the election process. Now, I'm a temporary officer, and I can be a temporary officer after the election. Now, if my party wins and I have to take action against them during the campaign, you know what happened to me? I ain't going to be temporary no more. I can be reverted to the position I was in, and somebody else can come up. So, officer, and this is happening throughout the public service. If you look, this government, and only this government, in my entire history of the working in public service, and I started in 1980, 2nd of January 1980. I've never seen it like this before, where they try, first of all, they create a lot of statutory boards where the ministers can call the chairman and say, I want A, B, or C to be my friend or whoever they call them. And next thing you know, that person is appointed because they don't go through the commissions. Now, with the constitutional amendments in 1974 that came effective on the 1st of January 1975, those amendments say the prime minister should be consulted on appointments at the higher levels. Permanent secretary, deputy permanent secretary, heads of departments, deputy heads of department.
Yeah.
That now has been interpreted to mean that the Prime Minister decides who these people are.
Who these people are for advice or consultancy, and so on. Caswell, what are your thoughts on that? You're muted, Caswell.
Yeah, sorry. This is stupidity at its highest, right? The government should not have any role in selecting any persons to run the election campaign, especially that unless they weren't feeling the candidate, you know. And they are feeling.
It can't be the government. Can't be the government then.
No, but they should have no role.
Agreed.
In that process, because whatever you do, it will look as though the government stacking the deck against other people. That is what I'm saying. The Electoral and Boundaries Commission should be employing that staff, and the people should be appointed by the president. Keep the politicians out of getting the politicians, because right now, a politician will decide who will be chief electoral officer. That politician is the prime minister. You think the prime minister will pick somebody who is not favorable to her? I have not seen it happen anywhere else in the public service. Wherever you go now, you see heads of department being picked because of their political stripes. Mind you, not their ability.
Or school ties.
School ties or political stripes. I don't know.
Mr. Franklyn, go right ahead.
All right, let's say that the vacancy occurred not of retirement but death. Who would you bring back? You know, you see the problem is, so the public service don't collapse because a person retires. You have people in the wings waiting, and I know there are competent and capable people in the electoral office, because I have worked with them over the years, and I've seen them work, and I remember several of them, even people who worked in there and then became returning officers, because some of the electoral, the resident officers then become returning officers in some cases, and they do marvelous work. It isn't that you need people that ain't got that experience. We've been doing this all along without bringing back retirees. I remember sometime we got about Dennis Smith, but again, that was unnecessary. You don't need to give these people training wheels. They were doing the job. They were doing all along. You think the last lady was there and she was doing everything herself? No. The people were there doing the work and she was signing off on it. So the people can do the work and let somebody else assist them. We don't need to bring back somebody. I tell you, it looks bad. It looks really bad when you try to make people look incompetent. And the only way you have these incompetent people is when you want to bring politicians, you know. When you bring your yard folks,
that's the thing there. It's like we're watching a movie. And so the question is, there's a prison break. The question, how did the guy get out? And we have Matlock here tonight, or the other one that they call him. I can't remember the other name, but Matlock is here tonight, and he's going to shed some possible light and ask some questions, and we can determine who really let the dogs out. Go right ahead, Caswell.
You know, this thing is troubling. You know, I represent a number of prison officers, and I sometimes try to hold things because I want to protect them, and some because some of the things that happen are some national security issues, and I don't discuss them. But this is not a national security issue. What might be the national security issue is the people who are managing the prison right now. You might need to get rid of them for the sake of national security because they seem to be very incompetent. Now let me start. This young man, Sean Thomas.
Sean Thomas.
He was convicted on Wednesday.
Wednesday gone?
Wednesday last week.
Wednesday last week, yes.
By Friday, he reported to the people that he fell in the shower, hit the back of his head, and he needs medical attention. He said that he can't feel his feet, but the man walking.
Well, he ran away.
Right? So rather than call the doctor to the prison, because this is a convicted murderer, somebody called an ambulance to the hospital, put him in it, take him to the hospital. And then he spends from just about 7 o'clock in the morning till 4. Now, if this man is a murderer, dangerous criminal, why would you have him messing around with the as emergency for so long? But worse yet, the prison rules require that if, let me read it for you, Marcia, because I people might not believe this, but it requires that two people must accompany a prisoner like him to the hospital. They sent one. And my information is that that fella had a bad foot. He was recruited with a bad foot a few months ago. He can't run with anybody. All right? But he didn't escape from this particular fella. So he is at the prison, he's at the hospital now. Apparently can't walk because he can't feel his legs and all kind of thing. And a dangerous person. Mind you, on Wednesday, when he was convicted, 4 police officers had to subdue him, and they understand he injured a couple of them, trying to escape from when he was convicted. Okay? So
You mean on the same Wednesday that he was convicted?
On Wednesday last week, he fought with 4 police officers.
Oh, because he was trying to escape.
So as not to go to prison. Okay?
I see. Okay.
So he fought with 4. I think 2 of them got injured. In the fracas that was that thing. So now he goes to the hospital. My understanding is when the police found out he was in the hospital, they contacted the prison authorities and said, look, this man, they just send a security detail down here with this man. You can't have it on here with one officer. The prison ignored the officer. Right? When that officer, well, nobody came to reinforce the other officer, though, who came to relieve the first fellow with the thing. The second officer is not too well himself either. I'm not going to discuss his medical condition because it is not something that you want to do. But he is not in a position to be at the hospital with any young man who could fight with 4 police officers by himself. That man escaped around 4 o'clock. Okay? Having been at the hospital, who is a dangerous criminal, at the hospital from 7 in the morning till 4, and he ain't get treated yet. Mind you, he can't feel his legs. Don't forget that part. But he can run. When the prison, there's some provision where if a prisoner escapes, the prison authorities are responsible for trying to recapture him for the first 24 hours, and then thereafter the police clicked in. When it was announced at the prison, when it was called and somebody might escape, you know what these people did? They locked down the prison. Lock in the officers who should have been going out to capture this man. You just bear with me with this one.
It's like a perfect getaway.
Yes. You are supposed to call in off-duty officers and deploy the people who you have available to go and try to see if you can recapture this man. But no, you lock the people that's supposed to go and catch you in the prison, put a padlock on the man can't get out.
But the man escaped from the hospital, right? Or the prison?
He escaped from the hospital. So why are
Why
you
lock
locking prison
for?
officers?
Why would lock the
Why are
prison?
you locking prison officers in the prison when their duty now is to go up there and find? But
Unbelievable.
Let me go back to the one where they're saying that the only one person that come in. The law requires 2. And they can't tell me that they didn't have 2 officers to accompany this man, because I know for a fact one of my members, matter of fact, call Nigel Hall, I will call his name. If you don't like it, you will get vexed with me and quarrel me later. He is at the prison not doing anything that day. Why? He has a medical condition, and the doctor said he must not work in certain places. And they assign him to the very place the doctor said don't put him. So he refused to work, because under the law, you can refuse to work in places that is dangerous to your health. So he is in prison doing nothing, and you send a fellow who just recruited to the hospital with a dangerous criminal and got him in the prison started walking book because instructions were given that the doctor said you can't work there, but you gotta work there. Mind, this is a medical thing, you know. I actually have copies of the doctor's letters, so I know what the doctors have said, and they insist that he must work in this position, no place else. He was an escort. He was one of the people who go to the prison. As a matter of fact, the last fella that escaped from the hospital, he was the guy who caught him. Yeah, he was the guy who caught him. But no, you don't use him because he is one of my members who put the government, who put the president authorities in court to make sure that they get their rights. Okay, so he's probably enemy number one. So you got to do everything to destroy and to kill him. So rather than let him go to the hospital with the man, or to accompany the other fellow when the shift change, so he can go down there, you let him stay in the prison and let a person who is not capable, by reason of his physical abilities, to subdue a man who could rough up 4 policemen. So trust me now on this, that this was the perfect ploy for you while again there. Not only did he get away from the accident emergency, but I have been there on an occasion, and you can only get through one door and then the close it and buzz it next. For him, both doors were open.
Oh yeah, woo! He got a breakthrough.
Both doors were open. Right, both doors. So he had a clear way, and then his van was out there waiting for him. That's some van that they say that was stolen there, waiting for him to get in and drive. Now, how did he get that knowledge? How did he get the knowledge that the van was out there waiting for him, and then it's time to escape? Well, he didn't escape early in the morning because everything was not in place for him to go yet. So how did he know this? Because he didn't have any visitors or anybody coming into the prison, because he was only convicted on the Wednesday, so he didn't have any. So this has to be an inside job. But let me tell you something. This is though people will tell me 5 or 6. I think there's 6 people who escaped from custody. Like I said, from prison, because 6 of them, only 1 escaped from the prison itself. 5 escaped from the hospital. Well, let's say 4. Because one of the fellas, he didn't get too far. He jumped out of the hospital window, fell off on the balcony, and landed on a container and broke his ankles. So they just had to go outside and bring him back, you know, because he couldn't feel his feet. You know,
that one couldn't feel his feet for real.
I am going to say 5, because there were 5 people, because this fellow, he really escaped. You know, he had a little.
He stepped outside.
He stepped outside. You know? But I'm laughing. But so we had Hot Harewood, Roger Seeley, Mario Austin, Stephan Graves, and they were all from the hospital. And then Tyreek Benskin, the guy who walked out of the prison when the power went off and all the doors open. And the generator did not work. Wow. All of this happened since 2022 under one superintendent of the prison, was acting superintendent, no, he's superintendent. And again, political figure.
So, Miss, before you go any further, so you're saying that these 5, whether or the 5, 4.5, the 5 that occurred, the 5 that occurred, the 5 that occurred, all happened under one person.
Yes.
Listen, Barbados, 'cause we're not in a joking, somebody need to get fired. Somebody need to get fired under one. Continue, please, Mister.
You know? So he has been a disaster at everything he put his hands on when it comes to prison duties, but he has good political connections.
Ah.
You know?
Uh,
I know his
You mean with the
connections very well.
DLP, or do you mean with the DLP or one of the independent? What kind of connections?
I canvassed with him when it was canvassing in St. Thomas in 1985. All right. Need I say more?
okay. But Marcia and Caswell, the prison service has been around for how long? Much longer than it was at Dodds, right?
Mm-hmm.
As an institution of that length, it must have systems and protocols in place to handle certain situations. When something, it triggers a number of reactions right up the chain of command, right? That is what I presume will happen in a well-ordered institution of that length of time.
Glenn, I must agree with you. The problem here is that I can't fault what you're saying. The problem is there are not only systems in place, there is legislation that governs how you do most things in the prison, right? I think it's the section, let me get the particular section. I think it's section 45. Section 45. Let me just check section 45 or 46 for you. I'm scrolling, right?
Okay.
And it tells you how to deal 45, 46. 46. It says, where in any case, from the gravity of the offense for which any prisoner may be in custody or for any other reason, the officer in charge considers it desirable to take special measures for the security of such prisoner while under treatment in hospital, it shall be lawful for him to give such prisoner into the charge of fit and proper, fit and proper persons, not being less than 2 in number, one of whom shall always be with such prisoner by day and by night. So the first thing they did wrong, section 46 of the Prison Act says, you're going to send 2 people because they said, for the gravity of the offense that he committed. You don't got more grave situations than murder. All right? So that a murderer should not be in the hospital basically by himself, but he had a prison officer, but there should be 2. People, let me give another little story. It might be funny, but I'm going to tell you about this thing. This happened a number of years ago. A prison officer, he's retired now, accompanied a prisoner to the hospital. Mind you, there should be 2, but he accompanied the prisoner to the hospital. But he was diabetic and he didn't have any breakfast. So you know what's happened? The man collapsed. Man passed out, went unconscious. The prisoner had to take the walkie-talkie and call the prisoner and tell them, officer passed out. What to do?
People, Caswell is back. Caswell is back.
I kid you not. That actually happened. I know the man's name. I know that the prisoner now, well, he is back in prison again, but he got time off for good behavior when he did that. He called the prisoner and said, look, your officer collapsed. What to do?
So the inmate was running the institution.
You know.
And he didn't run away.
but mind you, let me tell you something. If the person gets so bad, know that the matter is fixed. I will tell you. I didn't make a public issue out of it before. For a few months, the president didn't have any telephone, didn't have any walkie-talkie, didn't have any intercom.
What?
Yes. But they get fixed now. Because I intervened. I made some calls somewhere and they got phones the next day, and then They get cell phones and all kind of stuff. But the prisoner had nowhere to call. So let me give 2 scenarios that happened.
Well, but they didn't pay the bill?
Well, they have a problem with Digicel, and I don't know what happened if they pay bill or not. They didn't get any phones.
Digicel?
The what you call it? The VHF system that was down, and the intercom was down. Now, 2 scenarios. I'm not trying to be funny. There was a fight in the kitchen, and only 1 officer was in the kitchen, and there were 21 inmates. Well, and of course, you know that something could happen because that officer, he can't go and part in a fight with 1 fella. So what happened? Because there were no phones to call anybody or anything like that, fight break out. The prisoners had to intervene and brought order. But 1 prisoner was industrious enough to get piece of card and write on the thing, help, and went and hold it up in front of the camera. And by the time they saw the note and rushed down, the prisoners had already brought order back to the kitchen because there were no phones. This is something that was happening under this superintendent for months. And he did nothing about it and report the government. He done about nothing. He up there trying to, God knows what he's doing. But the worst, let me tell you. Then the same day that happened, you know, the prison, they count everything. Every time, every shift changes, you count. They call it they do the tally.
Yeah.
So you cannot leave the prison and go off duty unless the tally is correct. So apparently no tally came in for the female section. So and nobody can leave the prison because unless the tally is correct, so nobody can report the tally for the female section. So somebody had to go down to the female section to find out what's going on down there. Apparently the 2 female officers were inside, and the door behind them, you know, you go through 1 door, you close it, and then you open the next. But both doors cannot open at the same time. This is the hospital. So both doors cannot open at the same time. So somehow, when they went in the inner side, somebody at control probably inadvertently hit the open and left the outside door unlocked. So if the outside door is unlocked, the inside door can't open too.
Right.
And those women were inside there, can't get out. So they can't report the tally. They can't get out. It's only when somebody went and checked the realize that the prison officers were also in prison. Because they can't get out. So this is the kind of
it's like a comedy.
Yeah. And people getting paid for this.
Marcia, this reminds me, you've heard me made reference to a movie and a book called The Gang That Couldn't Shoot Straight. This sounds like the gang, but that apart, this institution, the president must have a boss, must have a political boss, somebody responsible. Where is the political boss in all this? Is the political boss still in his job? Still in his job?
The political boss is a nuisance. Sometime somebody said the incident Caswell spoke about is true. The prisoners look after the welfare of the president officer. Oh God, thank you, Ken. I don't speak to the same minister anymore because when he first became a minister,
that's Wilfred Abrams.
Yes, when he first became a minister of the government, I had previously had good things with him because I went to represent a man, but if I came to me and he came to get me to represent him because when he went to the disciplinary hearing, it was only him there, and this Wilfred Abrams came in to represent the employer, and he said to the employer, "Hey, how come I got a lawyer? He ain't got nobody. Man, let man get a representative." So that endeared me to him, and he did it twice at 2 different employers. So when he became minister, I thought I had a man of integrity that I can deal with. That thought was soon shattered because when they had COVID and they locked down the prison, they just locked down the prison. They didn't bring any PPE. They bought body bags and stuff. But I had communication from within. And that person told me they brought body bags. So I disclosed it. And they deduced who it could be. And it was the prisoner who I got the information from. I have my ways. And they beat the prisoner to a pulp. He was beaten and swollen. And they hit him in segregation. I WhatsApped the minister. And I tell you about it. I said, get them out of segregation and get it there. His concern was he didn't know that I had informants in the prison. He ain't gonna know that I got informants all over the place. If I didn't have informants in the prison, a lot more things would have gone on. And they thought my informants were all prison officers. They were not. It's my fault they didn't give people cell phones. You know?
Yeah.
So I get the information and it proved to be correct. I wrote the minister and he went on the radio and he said some things that were not correct, you know. And I tell him, look, I will never speak to you again. Never. Because he knew some of the things that he was saying was incorrect when he said them.
Wow.
And some of the same people, one of the same people that I talk about the same Nigel Hall was one of the people he said that were hiding away from the people calling, they said that they went to the polyclinic and the doctors tell them, go home, do not go anywhere else because you get tested and we ain't certain about you. And they said, we want to come in prison and get tested again because they had plans for those people.
Mm-hmm.
I tell them, you're going in prison, the doctors tell you, the doctor overruled, the chief medical officer overruled any superintendent of the prison, any minister. So you're not going to the prison. You are going to follow the directions of the chief medical officer in the state of emergency. You are going to stay put. So they went on the air, and the same Nigel Hall was one of the people who did this stuff. So Nigel Hall has been a target from all back then. Because they wanted to get him in the prison to do what they want to do with him. I said, no, you aren't going in the prison. The chief medical officer tell you don't go. So if the chief medical officer tell you don't go, and this is and for health, nobody overrules the chief medical officer. Or his designate. So when the doctors tell you don't do something in a state of emergency, you do that. So
Mr. Franklyn, what do we do? What's the outcome of this? What's going to happen? I mean, they can't find the man. They're not able to find Mr. Thomas. We don't know whether he's in the island, out of the island. What has happened to him? You know, where do we go from here?
I don't know, but I don't know. Maybe she could activate the original security system and see if they can find this boat going down the road. Because I don't think that he has got the rumble in Barbados. This was too well orchestrated. And it was orchestrated. It cannot be orchestrated by a man in prison who had no communication system available to him.
Right.
He was let out. There were 4 police officers, and 2 or so of them got injured.
And you are going to allow that man to go to the QEH claiming to not feel his feet and hit his head with one officer who had a foot problem, and my understanding he was relieved or said to be assisted by one who had a back problem, you know. And to think of, I'm just thinking of the victim's family. I know her husband, her sister, her relatives. And as I said, this is somebody I grew up with.
Wow.
And to hear this nonsense, the police did their work. The courts did their work. And you can have him as one of about 6 people who escaped prison.
But the circumstances. You see, the prison is a complete mess. I can give you some examples of why the administration of the prison from the minister at the top, minister, superintendent, should go. A few years ago, there were about 40 vacancies for prison officer 1. That is sergeant, right? For those who don't know the thing, sergeant. A lot of people applied. The prison authorities sent down 40 applicants to the prison administration division and said, but these are the people who applied. Did not tell the prison administration division, we got more people. So if you got 40 vacancies and 40 names, the people say, well, make sense to interviewing people because you got 40 people. Not knowing that there were another 20 who applied, but the people at the prison refused to send on their names because they did that. And they've done it again here this year, this last month. Now we have vacancies for orderly officer. You have people who are acting as orderly officer for months or years. And interviews come up. You know, these people did not get a chance to be interviewed for the job. And now PID, the PRC, they call it now, trying to tell them, oh, your reports weren't good. A man had a good report. A bad one. He said, but he does, but don't give me a bad report. So they do a proper one. Send it down. Another thing, but he reporting good. So they send on the bad one too. They send on the bad one to make sure that man did not get the chance. So the matters now have to go to court. Because you have just stopped me from getting a promotion or even getting the opportunity for an interview. These people are so dumb. If you really wanted to somebody that you don't want somebody, you interview them and then say you ain't doing an interview. But no, they did everything wrong to make sure that the people that they want in place are in place. My understanding is that the police spoke to a particular officer who is scheduled for a promotion now and tell him this man damn just send somebody. He ain't send nobody. And another prison officer, junior fella, gave them the same information. He said, but this man damn just won't ignore him too. So the police and one of your subordinates tell you, this man damn just, you can't be hostile, but just one man. No? So I believe that he was let out. I could be wrong.
But my question is this: I've been asking it from morning. Guys, is if and the viewers as well. Who is this guy really? Who is Sean Thomas? Because I think this is what we need to find out. Who is Sean Thomas? Who is he connected with? Who is he connected to? Who would be the people outside? What's the network? Does he have a network on the outside? What network is he connected to? Has to be a network because the van was stolen. It seemed it wasn't stolen in Christchurch or St. George. It was right here in St. Philip. The white van they said was stolen. So everything was properly coordinated, very well planned. Who are the people who want to help? Who would want him to get out? Why is it so important that this guy gets out? You understand what I'm saying? Who is he connected? He has to be connected to some network. Is it a gang? Is it political? Is it just a community? Was he like a Robin Hood and everybody loves him and wants him out? Something around this guy that we need to be able to understand, I think.
I don't know, but I'll tell you something because I want to get before we get too late. The establishment of the prison, what people call the establishment, the amount of staff that the prison should have, includes a doctor, a medical doctor. They don't have one. There's years. The establishment of the prison.
Why not?
Being cheap.
Oh wow.
You can send them to accident emergency, or you can
crazy.
Do
Fire the minister. Fire the minister.
But the law requires a medical officer who's supposed to be a doctor, appointed under the Civil Establishments Act, which is now the Public Service Act, because the law has been changed. So there is provision in there for a medical doctor, and that medical doctor is supposed to attend the prison every day and check on the prisoners. He's also required to check on the surroundings and make sure the utensils and stuff and how they prepare the food and thing meets a particular standard. That has never been done in some people work there for a lot of years have never seen it done. But it's here in the law. So the law here is being observed in the breach. People do it. The law is there. So just like for instance, I just want to go back into the election thing.
Yeah.
I hear a lot of people saying, "Oh, they need electoral reform and all kind of stuff, and that campaign financing." All those laws are there.
That's
It's
right.
just that nobody obeys them. So people think they're not there. Same thing with the prison. If I go to section the definition section, it speaks to the medical officer. For the purpose of this act, the express medical officer means a person appointed medical officer of a prison under the Civil Establishment Act. The Civil Establishment Act, as I said earlier, has been replaced by the Public Service Act. So the medical officer is a civil servant who is supposed to be appointed prison medical officer. They don't have one. It's cheaper to send down the polyclinic, they don't go pay, or send him to the hospital where he can escape. And if you have a situation where 5 people, 4.5 people could escape, and you have not put anything in place, the one with the prisoner taking up the walkie-talkie and calling the prisoner and said the bar pass out should have been enough to say, no, son, we gotta do better than this. But this goes back years.
Well, most sensible things don't make sense anymore. And
Like,
Caswell tells me about no telephone.
This is the 1964 Act. I almost said almost as old as me.
But Caswell talk about no telephones, no walkie-talkies. How could that happen? How could that? Because certainly, if I were working,
and sometimes no food.
if I were working at a bakery, Caswell, and my wife were in charge of a restaurant, to send me my food, and they said I'd be very upset. But I'm trying to understand how therefore it could not be any. I have to find out why you can't send food to my place that I'm in charge of. You get me? With telephones and walkie-talkies, those are basics. And not there, you have to intervene. How is this man still in a job? What? He must really be one of the Prime Minister's parents and true.
No, he's from St. Thomas, so he might not be Prime Minister's favorite. You know who favorite he was.
Wow.
Mind you, I had him at a disciplinary hearing asking him some questions, and I asked him if you know that particular person. He said no. I said, well, that person got you appointed chief officer, and you don't know? You don't know them?
No, we are locking our gates and everything because there is a murderer. Your court said he was a murderer. So we can say that there is a murderer, Miss McLean, on the loose. Quite interesting.
And the minister has not come and spoken to the public about it to reassure the public that the system is just going on, like with the walkie-talkies and no phones.
But but this has more repercussions, There's so much crime out there. The police are overworked. And you get them some more work now. But all of this could have been avoided. These police out there searching for him now should be in their bed next to the wife drawing up. Or husband, because they got police women too. You have a situation that could have been avoided if you only read the rules of the prison and applied them.
There's ridiculous, failures, and nothing is happening. And we have a minister of Home Affairs or whatever his title is responsible for that, and
not being held accountable,
and not saying anything.
Now let me just put some other things to you, because why I am going to just deal with what the law says, not what Caswell Franklyn thinks.
Mm-hmm. Section
10 of the Prison Act. I'm not a lawyer, but they tell me that when legislation says you shall, there's something that you got to do. You must do it. All right? If it's a may, then you could, or you don't have to. But if it says shall, you must do that. You must do it. And it says here, at Section 10, every prison shall have an officer in charge, a medical officer, and such other officers as may be necessary. So it says you shall have a medical officer.
Mm-hmm.
They've got none. They've got none for years.
Unbelievable.
Right? Yeah, but just it is ridiculous. Let me see. There's another thing I wanted to mention here now too. That medical officer under Section 16 of the Act Section 16(1) says, it shall be the duty of the medical officer to visit every prison daily and to record in a book to be kept for that purpose the hours of his visit and the number of sick he may find in the prison each day. And the officer in charge shall inspect such record daily. Well, that can't be done because they haven't got the medical officer.
Jeez.
And it says also, at least one, this is subsection 2 says, at least once a month, the medical officer shall inspect the whole prison with particular attention to the cooking and sanitary equipment in the prison. Has never been done in years. All right. So why is the prison allowed to run like it ran itself? And anything could go. Anything can happen. You had a guy who died in the prison. He went to the medical unit, got medical unit in prison, but people who are not qualified to be nurses or anybody else. And
you sure they laugh it off?
They said, the guy said that he had, someone was giving some problems and stuff, and they said they sent him back to the office. Then he cleared, but 4 times he went to the medical, they took him down to the medical thing. The last time he said he had blood in his mouth. They said he washed it up with salt. A fellow called Sean Hickson, he's now dead. Because when the night now, this was the Saturday, so the Saturday night now, he started to convulse in the cell. You can only have at night. If you want to open a cell, you must have at least 2 people. But only one fellow was there on duty. And so the prisoners were banging, trying to alert somebody that Sean was in there convulsing. And he convulsively stopped. When they opened up the morning, he was dead. Because they don't have that one. A lot of people in the prison don't do prison duties, and they find things for them to do. Right? For instance, there's a prison officer who is in charge of personnel. No, there's a personnel officer. So prison officers do prison work. There got some prison officers who have never ever attended a prison. A prisoner has never gone into the cells or gone down by the blocks. See, and they work 8 till 4 and go along home because they're some people's friends. There's a lot more evidence, but I can't talk about it now because somebody will impinge on national security. But what I am saying to you is that this prison needs management. It needs competent management, or else worse will happen. These 6 escapes, or 4.5, or 5.5 escapes, is only the tip of the iceberg. More will happen if things happen. If the prisoners realize that they can do what they like and get away with it, it will happen. Because right now the officers are under more scrutiny than the prisoners.
Yeah.
That is if you are not one of the lackeys of the management. But if you understand up and do a proper job, you are victimized.
But Mr. Franklyn, let me just remind others. I know we only have about a little more than 15 minutes left, but I always will open the phone line, even if it's just for a couple minutes, so people to call in. So I'm going to ask you to the information is right there on the screen to call in. Go ahead, Mr. Franklyn.
I am now getting WhatsApps from people who have relatives in prison. And one person just told me that she had to pay to send a private doctor to see her son.
Wow.
She had to pay him to go and see her son. This is just my WhatsApp message that I'm getting now. You know? She had to pay $250 for a doctor going to prison to see her son, who was waiting to be seen since October 2024.
And the government got money to subsidize the activity of the Barbados Workers Union and other things, and appoint consultants and send our people away. And these basic things are not being attended to. Who's in charge?
You see, the thing is, this fellow is a prisoner. But he's somebody's son.
Doesn't matter. He's a person. He has rights.
Yeah.
He's somebody's son.
This
And
is
Unbelievable.
somebody
there's
had
a
to,
Mr.
unless there was
Franklyn.
unless there was a
stick up.
cesarean section, he was pushed out. She felt pain for him.
Our whole sticker pin right there, Mr. There's a caller. Good night, caller. Welcome to the Marcia Week Show. We're going to move really quickly because we have another one waiting, right? So go right ahead.
Good night, Marcia. And
Good night.
to the panel, keep up the good work. What I'm really annoyed about, I'm not declaring who I am. I'm not afraid to do so. But I, as a former police officer, I keep telling people, I was told by a certain damsel, you are a flying ointment, don't look for the promotion. And this is after having excelled in law and society. The reason I'm saying this is that I am actually annoyed that Barbados could find millions of dollars for excursion and political, I call it, what was it, palaming. And you can tell me that your prison officers, and not only prison officers, but the actual prisoners for that matter, are treated in a way that would be globally acceptable. And then the other thing is, what I'm realizing is that it seems in Barbados, both persons who are deemed to have mental health challenges and the prisoners are encountering almost the same type of bad treatment. If you look at it and you study what's going on in Barbados for years, because if you have poor rehabilitation programs, you are going to strengthen recidivism on the ground.
Yeah.
You hear, right? So you could look at those two things, and you could, as the judge said, some nonsense, and you realize that what is going on, it all adds up to why the crime on the ground is rising.
I see what you're saying. Thank you so much, caller.
No, he had a good point because he had a good point because there is a prisoner who wanted to do his masters, and Caswell was accommodating him all kind of stuff. And they tell me the people said, "Not in my prison." Can we tell you
that he wouldn't be able to do his masters?
Yeah, the university was going to provide him with the laptop, and all they had to do is to give the current, so that he can and the Wi-Fi connection, and he will be able to do his thing. And he refused. They said, "No, not in here." And they talk about rehabilitation.
Election begin to show their dissatisfaction and their objection by voting or Kirby and voting in St. James North to vote against the government. Start putting it. No, don't wait for it. If you got friends off it, talk to them. Share information and begin the move of let this government know that people are not happy and they prepare to do something about it.
Glenn, thank you. I wanted to say something to that effect, but I don't know how I was going to get it in. But no, you start. I will continue.
Good. I never help you.
That means you have to come back. You have to come back.
No. What I'm talking about is this. The government has 28 seats currently. The opposition has one, and there's one vacancy. All right?
Oh, one vacant, yeah.
If you need to amend the constitution, you only need 20. You only need 20 seats. So the government can do anything that it wants to do in Barbados, and nobody can stop it. But what we need is some strength on the opposition side, because with all the good intentions that Ralph might have, he cannot, as one person, monitor and take care of everything else. I'm not telling you vote them. I'm not telling you vote me. Vote for whoever you want if somebody else come and run. But this government should not get the votes. Reason being, they don't need them. Now, if they said they want to retain, they want to get shot, okay, he's in the Senate. Let him stay there. And he can still contribute on the debates. He can still do all kinds of fancy things, and he will still be in Parliament. But if you don't strengthen the opposition, the government will continue doing foolishness all the time. And as I said, Ralph can't get to all by himself. And all the good intentions in the world, he can't manage. He needs other people wrong him. And you need to put somebody in place to help with the opposition. I wish a few more of them will resign. Mind you, Eddie Hicks again is picking England, so he gone.
Yeah,
and I think that's a shameful thing, because you are elected to serve your constituency for 5 years. You don't abandon them because you want to get a pick, or not you want to get a pick. Somebody break you.
Offer. Caswell, thanks for seeing you. I hope Snow and company are doing all right.
Yes, actually, I had to mute my thing just now because Snow was out there doing her job.
Yeah. She wants you to get up here now. And please say a big hello to your wife for us, please.
I
Yes.
will.
Yes.
I will. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyhow, when they come on these shows, 10 o'clock comes very fast.
Yes.
So I am going to use my closing comments to say that the government recently instituted an increase in the national insurance. It was announced in the budget. There is nowhere legally that you can raise national insurance in your budget. Any money that is raised in the budget, according to the Provisional Collection of Taxes Act, must go to the consolidated fund. So you cannot raise national insurance funds or any tax and go anywhere else other than the consolidated fund. So right now, people who are deducting money and paying it into national insurance is doing so illegally because there is no statutory provision for it. The minister, let me just read for you what the definition of a tax is under the Provisional Collection of Taxes Act. It says, interpretation says, you don't go that far. Tax includes all assessments, charges, duties, fees, rates, impositions, and other levies, however called, the proceeds of which are payable into the consolidated fund as part of the revenues of Barbados. National insurance is not the revenues of Barbados. It is not consolidated fund. So and I'm quoting from the Provisional Collection of Taxes Act. This act, what this act does, government does the estimates and they say, okay, well, we're going to have a shortfall between the revenue and expenditure. So we got to close that gap. So they do it quickly. And then they give this legislation gives the government 4 months to put the legislation in place. But the money must go into the consolidated fund. So when I am shocked that the Prime Minister, who has been in Parliament for 30 odd years, does not know this. She's the Minister of Finance. And you cannot raise taxes or something like that in a budget. As a matter of fact, a budget can only raise taxes or increase tax. You can't even get rid of a tax in a budget. You have to pass the necessary legislation.
That's right.
Right.
And for national insurance thing, however the national insurance rates go up, you have to take that process. You cannot do it in the budget. So I want the government to realize that they start taking people money illegally again. But they do it all the time. I remember when it was in the Senate, they had the water authority to collect money. They said, no, the water authority can't collect things. The water authority legislation not provide for it. So they'll come back next week and make that amendment. They're doing it too often.
Mr.